Boop, boop, boop. All right, let's go. In an ever-expanding galaxy filled with unknown aliens, cultures, and technology, it is comforting to know that one company stands for humanity. Cerberus Corporation, putting humanity first through our breakthroughs in reverse engineering alien technology. We have teams scouring the galaxy for the latest and unknown technologies to secure the future with the past. But it doesn't stop there. Our scientists are on the cutting edge of human biotic research, using all the latest in safe and humane procedures. Our patients want for nothing in a galaxy filled with those that would abuse their abilities. Cerberus Corporation is there for humanity. Even with the Citadel and its council doing all it can to hold back humanity, we are there, standing between their iron-fisted rule and the abyss. Humanity is strong. Humanity will have its place at the table, and that place will be at the head. Cerberus Corporation, putting humanity first, by any means necessary.
This is Crashed While Loading, the fusion of entertainment and information.
Hello there.
Weekly updates and opinions on video games,
You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.
movies,
I'm about to do to you what Limp Bizkit did to music in the late 90s.
TV shows,
This is the way.
This is the way.
and so much more.
TJ, what do you want to do tonight?
Off. We need to go on a quick adventure. Hello, people of the interwebs. Welcome to the 34th-ish, he said, knowing that he was reading this out loud, but then suddenly started to second-guess himself, episode of Crashed While Loading, the only podcast openly powered by adult ADHD. I, of course, am your host, Ashen Phoenix, and with me today is nobody, because I do this by myself. And now, willingly. It's not like everyone was like, we don't want to be friends with you anymore. That does happen, but that's not why this happened. It happened because I never know when I can do the stow. The stow. The stow. I don't know when I can do the stow, Mr. Lambo. Anyway, if you're listening to it on the podcast, you're awesome. You're probably a very good-looking person, very, very popular with both the men and the ladies. And if you're not, well, it's probably your horrible body odor. I can't really do anything for you, but having been to a convention, I know that some people actually do sell deodorant because you need it. If you're going to a convention in public, for the love of God and all that is holy, wear deodorant. There's always a couple. I don't know why. It is not difficult. Watch Gabriel Iglesias. Put on deodorant, fucker. It's not that difficult. Just do it. Your costume is amazing. Unfortunately, the smell-o-vision that comes with it was not necessary there, Crocodile Boy. So, anyway, as I said, powered by adult ADHD. I don't know where that came from. So, I've got a great show for you today. Probably, today, unlike the usual 15 minutes of content, jam-packed into an hour and 15 minutes worth of show, I've probably got a good 16 minutes of content cram-packed into an hour and 15 minutes of show. And no, Ericus in the chat, those are not pheromones. Pheromones are attractive. Body odor is anti-pheromones. They're not good. You don't want that. And the only excuse to have body odor is leaving a gym. That's pretty much it. Or you're being a teenager because they just stink all the time regardless. Believe me, I've had two. And they are horrible, disgusting, filthy creatures. And eventually one day it just stops. I don't know why. Yeah, that's just how it works. So anyway, I've got I've got stuff to talk about. Watched 3 things. Invincible, which was awesome, from Amazon. Army of the Dead, Zack Snyder's zombie movie with Dave Bautista, and Love, Death, and Robots Season 2. I'll probably do it all at the end of the show. I'll give you a quick overview of what I thought of them now, but to avoid possible spoilers and stuff like that, I'll do it at the end of the show. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you could just not listen to the back half of the show. But for now, I'll just give you what I thought of all 3 of them. Invincible is fucking awesome. That was a really big surprise show for the animation style and things like that. That, the American one frame of quote-unquote animation moving around, it's the way things are done. It's actually done in a lot of animation, even anime. But the story was really good. I really enjoyed it. Had a lot of twists and turns. Some of them, it definitely plays up on a lot of the stereotypes of superhero-dom. I mean, there's Omni-Man, who is clearly the Superman. Then they have speedsters, who's the Flash. There's even a Batman-like guy. They've got all the... There's only so many tropes that superheroes can go through these days. But they did it well, and they actually used a lot of more real-world standards outside of just the comic book standards, like how fragile our us tiny little squishy human beings are, and how difficult we would really be to save all the time. When a building's collapsing around you, or like a speedster moving you that fast, you would have some issues and stuff like that. And they did that very well, kind of in the same way of Superpowered for Superheroes, the book series I talked about some time back. I think it's like 4 books. If I haven't talked about it on this show recently, it's great. It's a great series, Superpowered for Superheroes. Army of the Dead, I mean, it's Zack Snyder. You know what you're getting with Zack Snyder, regardless of what he says about social commentary, about border walls. We'll get into that later. But, I love Dave Bautista. He was fantastic. It's a zombie movie. I mean, if you like zombie movies, you're going to like it. And if you don't like zombie movies, you're not going to like it. There's nothing real. It's not entirely deep. It is definitely like, I think he described it as 28 Days Later meets Ocean's 11, and that's accurate. I can't say that it's not, but I'll get more in depth to it. But it was fun. I see it's getting lambasted in a lot of places. Like 5s and 6s, and maybe that's fair, but for a zombie movie, I don't know. I'd say it's like an 8. I mean, for an actual regular movie, I guess 5 or 6 might cut it. But if you're a fan of the genre, you're going there because you already know you like that stuff, and it does a lot of really cool stuff. And it tries to tangle up with the zombie thing. I read a lot of zombie books, so it's nothing really new to me. To go into it, but it's perfect. Like, Dave Bautista is awesome. I was actually kind of disappointed about him recently. He came out and said that after Guardians of the Galaxy 3, he's no longer going to play Drax in that. But his reasoning is really good because he's pushing 51 now, and he was saying how it's getting really, really difficult as he's getting older and older to keep that Drax fit. He's got to be shirtless to be Drax. He's just in a pair of pants and a whole bunch of makeup. But it gets difficult to hold on to that kind of muscle mass at that age. I mean, look at Schwarzenegger. I mean, given he's pushing into 60s, almost 70 now, but even by this age, he was still, kind of bulking out as opposed to bulking up. Same thing with Vin Diesel. A lot of those guys, The Rock is still fucking gargantuan. I think he actually is just a planetoid of himself that slowly just gathers in other matter and continues to build himself up. And one day, he will, of course, collapse into a super black hole and devour us all, which is the way of going about that. Drax CG, Erica says CGI Drax and use him and voice the character. That could work, but there's that uncanny valley thing where it just doesn't always work, because you don't want to CGI Drax after that one and then have it look like fucking Ryan Reynolds out of Green Lantern. I mean, Rocket looks great. Rocket Raccoon, and he's CGI, but there's difference between an animated raccoon and trying to recapture a living person that sometimes it still doesn't quite work. And of course I say that then having also seen the 8 episodes of season 2 of Love, Death, and Robots, some of those episodes are which are the CGI is so good, there's several shots that it looks real. Actually, it looks entirely real on some of those episodes. It was only 8 episodes as opposed to 18. Love, Death, and Robots, by the way, not Army of the Dead. But it was good. I mean, it had 2 or 3 ones that were so-so. Then there were some that really hit hard. The Pop Squad one in particular was really, really disturbing to watch. The Santa Claus one and all that. Woof. Yeah, I won't go too deep into it, but that's a great series. It's just a neat anthology to see what happens when people have money, a company has money thrown at them in a Pixar minis kind of way, and just do it's 10 to 18 minute storyline. It depends on the episode. That's typically how they run. But it was good. I mean, it was what you would expect from something like that. I just find their abilities to make those CG stuff like that, between the variety of styles and animations and the nifty little stories they come up with are really, really cool. And unlike Army of the Dead, they actually do have social commentary on a lot of them. Usually it's typically the beware of intelligent AI, beware of social engineering, a lot of the Black Mirror tropes and stuff like that. It's typical sci-fi stuff. If you're here, you probably know what a lot of that stuff is like. Get the guys from Blizzard that made the CGI orcs. Yeah, I assume you mean the movie. They were good, but even that they still look animated. At least I can see it. It looks CGI. It's got that uncanny valley thing to it, Ericus. I don't know. Yeah, that's what I figured. I mean, I love Blizzard's CGI cutscenes and trailers. They're not as good as Final Fantasies, obviously, or even Star Wars: The Old Republics, but that's more that I'm a fan of Star Wars. I mean, I like the trailers for World of Warcraft's games. I also don't have the added benefit of knowing who the fuck I'm looking at. So there's like an undead chick, and this guy looks really heroic. You could tell because he can actually chisel stone with his chin. Then there's this person here in a hood with an arrow. They're probably a hoodie arrow person, and they're gonna shoot something up, and then they just shot a thing. Yep, of course, that's literally Elder Scrolls Online's every fucking trailer, too. So I can't really make fun. And EverQuest. You know what? Fantasy has just a lot of tropes that they just can't get away from. I've noticed that. So anyway, I'll give a better review, maybe a little more in-depth spoilers and stuff at the end of the show. Moving on to the news. Netflix. Because why wouldn't we talk about Netflix? But Netflix doing games. That's a new one. Apparently Netflix wants to get into gaming. Again, they've tried it before, and it didn't really come to anything. Part of me wonders now. I mean, Netflix is obviously slightly popular. They do very well for themselves, I guess you could say. Not everybody's a huge fan. I have hits and misses with them. Some of the stuff they do is awesome. Some stuff they throw money at, and it's amazing, and then they're like, yeah, nah, we're going to cancel that, and then there's other things, like, what was the recent one? Irregulars, which was based on Sherlock Holmes stuff, but with superpowers in it, and boy, was that not good. I think I made it through half an episode, and apparently I'm not in disagreement because they just already decided, like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that again. That was not good. And then there's other ones like Carnival Row, which was like steampunk fantasy based. Like, pixies are real they're real people. They're normal sized, and that one's with it's got Bloom, dude from Lord of the Rings and Pirates of the Caribbean, Legolas guy. I just totally forgotten. Not David Bloom. Orlando Bloom. Haha, I got it. It's got Orlando Bloom in it. He does excellent. And there's that one's really good. And it's supposed to get a second season, one of these years. We know Witcher is coming around. It's filming right now or wrapped up, I think. But they're getting into games. And as before I got off of my rant, Xbox Game Pass becoming what it is becoming makes me think Netflix is looking at that and just salivating if they can get video games on their service somehow to stream through. If they can turn Netflix not in just to a video streaming service, but a video game streaming service, which is getting better. Xbox's xCloud is actually really, really good. Comparatively, compared to, what was it? Oh, I forget the one that Google put out or whatever it was. It's just Stadia. That's just not good. But it makes me wonder if that's why they're kind of going after this. So yeah, they're looking to get into gaming. Nobody really knows. There's not a lot of information right now. It's really more of a rumor. But one idea apparently out there is that they'll offer bundles like the Apple does with the arcade games, and we'll see. I mean, they've got several things on here already that they've got the Castlevania series, which is excellent. I still need to watch the fourth season. We just haven't gotten around to it. They've got Resident Evil. They've got a new Resident Evil animated CGI movie coming out here, I think this month, if I remember right. Then there's obviously The Witcher. They also did what was that called? The Bandersnatch, which is a TV show on there, but it's like a choose your own adventure thing. Like as things happen, it's not very long, but you can choose what the character does, and that will then change the plot of what you see happen next until you either survive or you don't. But so they've kind of pushed the limits on stuff like that before, and they're really trying to. So, I mean, they've already got the look at what not to do with Amazon. Man. Yeah.
This can only end in tears.
So Amazon is exactly what I think I've said it before. I really thought Amazon Games was going to decimate the market, and then turns out it was ran like a child's plaything. So it's not doing great. So hopefully Netflix does better than they're doing. They'd be hard pressed to do worse. In other news, actually this one was kind of heartwarming. Heartwarming in that somebody passed away, but it was a beloved somebody. So it was the guy that created Berserk, which is an anime, Kentaro Miura. So he passed away, and that is very unfortunate. I've never really watched Berserk. I know it's well loved. It's one of those classic animes that have been around for ages and ages and ages, but I just never got really around to it. But in Final Fantasy XIV, being that that's very heavily inspired by anime, and some of the characters in that are clearly inspired by Berserk. Final Fantasy VII's iconic Buster Sword is, directly as a result of the inspiration from Berserk. So we also have, let's see here, Naoka Yoshida said, honestly speaking, and this is not limited to Final Fantasy XIV, but with any game that I have been a part of, there are elements where consciously or subconsciously I was influenced by Mr. Miura's work. See? He's just everywhere. So what happened was a whole bunch of people across multiple servers, thousands of players, donned their Dark Knight gear, which heavily resembled the Berserk's main character, whose name is Guts, and stood vigil on the streets of Ul'dah and other major cities. And there's a pose where, they, in Final Fantasy XIV, where you can have your sword, like, right in front of you. It's a really pretty cool pose. And, they just did, like, a little memorial to the creator of that and the inspiration for that class. Let's see here. I think, Yoshida went on to say, it was heartwarming to see how much influence he has on players. I also want to thank players for taking time to acknowledge that even players in Japan, too, are very much affected by this, and there's a lot of shock among the fandom as well. So, yeah, he was only 54, too, when he passed away recently, which is, I don't know if you're aware of this, that's not exactly old by today's standards, but these things do happen. But no, it's always, it was kind of like, what was that? Oh, when Carrie Fisher died, unexpectedly, again, Star Wars The Old Republic, there is House Organa is actually in the game. So players went in there and just, held vigil, just like their own thanks for everything that you've done and the joy you've spread to the world and the character that you played and blah, blah, blah. It was a memorial. So that's really cool. I love, when gamers and games do stuff like that, especially when they don't have to. It's outside of the realm of Final Fantasy XIV, technically, but it does have a big influence on that. And obviously, people that play Final Fantasy tend to be anime nerds, and they're a pretty tight-knit group. Also, somewhat stinky at anime conventions. Completely unrelated, but pulling back to the first topic at the top of the show. Yes, you look like Naruto, but you smell like Genji. That's just how that works. So in other news, Injustice, which, if you don't know what that is, Justice Gods Among Us is NetherRealm Studios' DC Comics fighting game. There's 2 of them. They're really good. The storyline is fantastic. The gameplay, at least at the time, was really good. They're better playing games, even though they don't have fatalities and things like that. I've enjoyed all of them, and the story is fantastic. I absolutely love the dark Superman and all the just craziness that goes along with it, with him, killing Joker because he killed Lois Lane. Yes, and the DLC characters are awesome, but apparently there is an Injustice movie in the works. It's an animated movie. And I will say one thing DC, well, less so recently, but more often than not, DC's animated arm is much better than their movie arm. They tend to put out a better quality story and comic. Unless, of course, you do that recent Joker one where he, paralyzed Batgirl. That one, the adaptation of that was horribly done. It was just awful. But there's not a whole lot to it. I assume it's going to be based off of the game and probably just retell the story, or it may actually continue on. I don't know. There's not exactly sure. There's really not a whole lot to it just yet. Yeah, there's not. I want to make sure I still remembered that. Yeah, no details, actors, or even the date of release. So, it's cool that it's going to be made. I really look kind of forward to that because anything more Injustice. I mean, the Injustice spun off an entire series of comic books based in that alternate DC universe of totalitarian Superman who just lost his mind and had to be stopped, and all the heroes and villains having to kind of work together to go up against him. Bad Superman is always a really cool trope. I know they pull it out an awful lot, but at the same time, it's kind of always a good plot twist. At least if it's done right. Sorry, I had to take a drink. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to that. I hope they throw some real good money at it. I know there's a new Batman coming out the animation looks pretty slick, so we'll see. Moving on. This is Mass Effect-ish, touching, related, sort of. This article from, PC Gamer. They talked to a SETI Institute senior astronomer about possible alien biology, technology, and culture to find out how Mass Effect aliens stack up. And given that I'm playing, I think, 20 hours now into Mass Effect, which I've just now I've left the Citadel, And then I did all sorts of crap, and I've only just now, you're supposed to go to one of 3 planets. First you get Liara, which I did, and then there's like Pharos and Nostradamus, or it's Nova something or other. I've done Pharos, and 20 hours into it, I just now finished that, and there's a lot to do in that game. I forgot how massive it really was at the time. So this one is kind of just goes through why things are the way they are in a lot of these things, like why sci-fi aliens look like us in TVs and movies. Honestly, Batman side or Superman side? Eric has asked me. Like in general, I like Superman better. Morally on that one, at least in Injustice, you got to go with Batman. I mean, Superman was totally justified in putting his fist through Joker. He did what Batman never could. But at the same time, he then went a little too far with, world domination and whatnot. And it's been a while. I don't remember all the exact plot points at this point. I've played these games, kind of like Mass Effect. I played them all when they came out, but that's been 14 years now. So it is kind of neat playing through Mass Effect, and I'm doing quests, like some of the side quests. I'm like, holy crap, I completely forgot about this, but now playing through it, I remember this like it was yesterday. It's weird how the brain works. But, so yeah, anyway, sci-fi aliens and TVs and stuff like that, the reason they look like us for the most part is because it's convenient. It's expensive to make non-alien or non-human looking aliens in like realistic TV shows. Now, given in the video game, you have different ones. You've got, I forget the species now, of course, because I'm on air, and that's when my brain goes, duh, you are smart, but not smart enough to remember the L-Core, until I do something like that, and then I remember the L-Core. Satisfied greeting. Hello there, human. That species. Absolutely love them. But they're big, muscly, bipedal things, and so video games, they can do that. But at the same time, there is a point where you get too far into the alienness of a thing, and it's harder to contextually and like story-wise. You can't connect to something that is so utterly alien that you have nothing. There's just nothing physical that your mind can connect to. Like there's the Thorian plant thing in Mass Effect. It's just a big ugly mess, and it takes over people's minds and stuff like that. And then you cannot. It's really difficult to connect to something like that. You have to be crazy, or one that's always been difficult, like insectoid creatures and aliens. That a lot of us are just kind of repulsed by insects on a fundamental level for, whatever thing, usually because they're poisonous and will try to kill us. That's probably a good evolutionary design to be like, yeah, I don't want to touch the icky 8-legged thing that has poisoned little pincers and webby, spinny things that make our skin crawl when we walk through them. Yeah, evolution's fun like that. But that's also the other reason, according to the scientist somewhere in here. Why was it? Are Mass Effect aliens biologically accurate? I'll just read here real quick. Mass Effect's core assumption is that aliens, like us, are products of evolution over millions and millions of years. And that might not be true, but because we don't have examples of life that doesn't adhere to the laws of Darwinism, we don't know that for sure. And I beg to differ. What about the duck-billed platypus? Yeah, explain that, Darwinism. That thing's just God's joke on the planet. Like, well, we got extra pieces. I don't know, let's put the bill here. We got some flappy feet and got a little beaver-like tail and a kind of longish body. Hey, we got a poison tooth. Let's just stick that up in there. And, yeah, you know what? It's 5 o'clock already. It's time to punch it and go home. We'll just call it the platypus. Well, what about the duckbill? Okay, fine. The duckbill platypus. Whatever. Can we go home now? I'm missing Netflix. Witcher Season 2 is on. God, it's in the future because he's everywhere, so he can already go home. Both creating the platypus millions of years ago and go home to watch Witcher Season 2 because that's just the kind of power he has. Yeah, be envious. So anyway, because of evolutionary biology, is a good chance that even aliens in another planet, if they have Earth-like conditions, they would evolve in a lot of similar ways to us, just because that would just be the way evolution would take in order for that species to survive. It did well with the Kerrigan from You're a Kerrigan from StarCraft. Anyway, talking to Ericus in the chat. Sorry for those of you that aren't watching live, but could be at twitch.tv/crashedwhileloading. Yes, every weekend. So, evolutionary I was like, evolutionary bipedalism, the upright stance, that's another thing. Just because of, being able to see farther, you can do that when you're standing up, as opposed to even a gorilla who tends, they can walk upright, even though it's not comfortable for them. They don't see as high as we do, even though they're a lot bigger than us, because they're on all fours. It's kind of what gives us an advantage. We can see over things like tall grass. So let's see here. Having 2 arms, that's just an accident. There's a fish called the Tiktaalik. Okay. That is the ancestor of us, and all the 4 appendaged beings on Earth. This Shostak. This is the evolutionary guy, by the way, the SETI guy. And if you think about it, 4 is not the usual number of appendages on Earth. The number is 6 because of all the instincts. Insects. Oh, wow. 6 obviously works, and you could imagine that the aliens that have 2 appendages for walking and then 4 for using tools or playing the piano, and that would make sense too. So that's why we just have 4 limbs, is just an accident. So if you go off the evolutionary theory, we went off of the flipper-based fish back in the past who only had the fins, and that's why we have the 2 legs and 2 arms. And if you've got more than that, well, you're a mutant, and the Mutant Registration Act will take care of you soon. Expect the Sentinels at any moment. Please stand by. No, but... so yeah, alien life going on other worlds. It would be too out of the ordinary for us if we really bumped into a Mass Effect relay in the real world, that some of the species out there would be like, Goro from Mortal Kombat. They've got the long legs, and they have 4 arms because that's just what they evolved from. Why not? Sure, Let's see. Mass Effect's aliens are mostly consistent with the laws of evolution, which is because, again, like they said, we don't know a whole lot of everything we have here on Earth. If you go off the theory of evolution, and for me personally, I'm a mix of the two. What do they call it? Created evolution. I do believe in God. I know. Don't. It's okay. It's all right. You're allowed not to. I don't mind. You heathen. But that the laws of the universe and physics and everything are set into place. The life is created, and then it is allowed to, within the confines of those laws of physics and nature, it evolves. I mean, we've seen things evolve in laboratories. That's why we use gnats and things like that, flies and whatnot on research, because we can get... Instead of, waiting, 40 years for a couple generations in humans, on that we can get hundreds of generations within, a few months to a couple years. That's the way that kind of research tends to work. If you didn't know that, I don't know how many people are interested in, botfly research, but, it fills my weekend up because I'm just that kind of fun-loving guy. I'm a... party animal. I know how to have fun.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Shut up. So anyway, let's see. Reproductive sex with aliens is definitely not on the table. Oh, yeah. Sorry, 2008 Fox News. Sorry, I was watching a video on Mass Effect controversies that happened when this game came out at the time, and I actually it brought it back because I actually got on my local radio station and defended the game because they clearly had no idea what they were talking about. But it was about how they were talking about that it was basically a porno video game because you could, have interplayer connections and hook up with the alien species and whatnot. And some of them were even, wait for it, gay and or lesbian. You can hold on. You don't have to clutch your pearls. It's okay. It's okay. I believe that is slightly more accepted now, depending on which part of the internet you go on. Unfortunately, I personally don't care. I don't care what you put in what orifice. That is your own personal belief, and I just don't give a shit. It has no bearing on my day-to-day life. So you do you wacky alien loving lesbian gay. Try Krogan. There we go. I was trying to remember the freaking Rex. Krogan. Good lord. So anyway, this guy says it's like contemplating having sex with the houseflies thing again. It's like contemplating having sex with houseflies to get in through the front door. There is a biological incompatibility. It wouldn't work for all sorts of reasons. The idea that you'd have that sort of relationship with an alien, well, dream on. There's probably not going to be going to have DNA to begin with, and the whole apparatus will be different. And beyond that, maybe they haven't showered in a week. Who knows? Okay, that's just weird. But yeah, who knows? I mean, and I know that's one of those things in a lot of them is that you like Star Trek. I think you can have. There's a very, very few species. Like there's humans and Vulcans can intermate, and it works out because we're biologically close. But there's a lot of other Beta Zeds and things like that. But there's a lot of other species that it just doesn't work. It doesn't work, Klingons. But I think in Star Trek they explain that away because the entire galaxy was seeded by an ancient race, and that's why they're all evolutionarily similar. If I remember right, I know that was a thing that happened. I don't remember the race that did that. But it's one bit of nerd knowledge that sticks in my brain, so I'm going to go with the fact that is actually a thing that I remember correctly. But in actual reality, if we bumped into aliens like the Greys, I don't know if you've seen pictures of them. There's not a whole lot going on downstairs, so you'd probably just, I don't know. They give good head. I have no idea because their heads are giant. See, that's what I'm talking. I'm not talking about sexual things. I'm talking about they just have giant gray heads, and that's how they think because that's the way that. Anyway, so moving on from the sex thing. Oh, anyway, actually back on the sex thing. So I actually had to call in to a local radio station back. I think it had to have been 2008 to defend Mass Effect from the local morning show people that were on about it, and it was a couple actually, and they were waxing on about this and that, and it's like it's clearly you guys have never played this. So I called in, and they actually put me on the air, and they listened, believe it or not, and I told them flat out like, listen, even if you, for one, the sex scenes in Mass Effect are a choice, and they're not you don't just power up the game and click the I want sex now button. You actually have to work at it, and you can fail it. Just like a real relationship, you can say something stupid and screw the whole thing up. Believe me, I know. As someone that works hard every day to say something stupid on accident, I've become very good at it. But, then I told them, and then even if you do get to that scene, seriously, the Fox and CBS and ABC after 8, 9 o'clock Central Standard Time shows as much as those do, especially these days. You get a side butt, maybe a little, little bit of side boob kind of in this cutscenes. But there's PG-13 movies that show more than these cutscenes do. And they had absolutely no idea because they were also going off of the horrible reporting that was going on at the time. Surprise! The mainstream media is not good at actually doing what it's supposed to do. Which is, basically what happens today. So yeah, I think I actually uploaded that somewhere one time, defending Mass Effect. And then there's another time I actually got to talk to Jack Thompson. I think I've mentioned that before, who is the guy best known for trying to get Grand Theft Auto banned, and who was a horrible lawyer who was later disgraced and disbarred because he's a despicable person, a liar, and a piece of shit. But I actually got to argue with him one time about why he was wrong on the violence and his horrible take on video games, and that was a delight. He is a wonderful human being, and I really came out of that conversation feeling good and better and not disgusting and icky for having to talk to such a piece of human shit. What? I said some nice things. He's human. Ish. I don't know. He's a lawyer. What do you want? Anyway, so our biology would make colonizing alien worlds a logistical nightmare. And according to this, he says, your first thought is, oh, well, there's oxygen in the air and there's plants around. I'll just make a living here. But you can't forget about your gut bacteria, because those are going to be different in terms of their function in some other world, and they're not DNA-based, so they can't really help you. You'll probably die. I assume they're talking if we go to another... I don't know why he thinks nothing else in the galaxy is going to be DNA-based. I don't know. That's an assumption on him, I assume. It's very possible, of course, but something has to be the building block of other life as well. And maybe, I don't know, maybe the alien species will call it something else, like we call lots of other things. But I don't know. That one's a little weird that he just assumes that. And it's not like we wouldn't bring our own shit with us. It's just another weird, some of the things that he goes over, it's like you're being a little nitpicky. And if people can't even eat food from different countries without suffering from diarrhea, will our bodies be able to eat entirely alien foods? That is a very good question. I, for example, cannot eat authentic Mexican food. The results are explosive. Well, also the same with Taco Bell, but that's also not technically Mexican food. That's Mexican food adjacent. And it's still delicious. I don't care what it's made out of. I don't care how much barley or whatever they claim is in the meat, quote unquote. I still want it. And of course, and lastly here, the Mass Effect avoids the real issues with communication, which is one of those things that you just, I mean, it's sci-fi. You have to glance over the fact that people can all kind of speak the same language. Yes, they usually do that with universal translators and tiny AI-powered devices and blah, blah, blah that translate things in real time. But, you know, one of those things that I've always thought was funny with like universal translators is, obviously, for show purposes, they only do it in English or whatever the native language of the show is. But if you were really listening to something like that and you had an universal translator in your ear talking to you, it'd be really difficult because you'd be hearing two things. You'd hear what the alien is saying in his alien gibberish. We'll call it Nook Nook. And so when he's speaking Nook Nook, you're hearing his Nook Nook speak, and then you're hearing it translated in a computer voice, probably in English, or, you know, it's a future. So we'll say they even give them a distinct voice for each person that's speaking. But you'd still be hearing two lines of audio, which is really confusing. I don't know if you've ever actually tried to listen to two things at once while one's going on and the other is talking. It's not as easy as a lot of people think, because you really don't know where to focus. Your ear and your brain can't do it. As an example. I really like having some of these drops. So, yeah, it's one of those things that's always like, it doesn't bug me, but it's always in the back of my mind, like, that'd be a really difficult conversation to have. I think the best one that probably did that was, what was it, Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country? Or was that 4? No, 6. Yeah, I think that was 6. When Kirk and Bones are on trial with the Klingons, and, you know, they actually have the universal translator up to their ear, so they're hearing the Klingon and then they're hearing the translation at the same time. Although that, oddly enough, I think was actually done with other people translating in their ear. But still, that's pretty close as you come to it. This one, the last one here I'll go over, or the last two, is that aliens might not even recognize us as intelligent. I mean, have you seen TikTok? I don't even recognize us as intelligent anymore. I mean, I do this stupid show on Twitch. I don't even recognize myself as intelligent. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I'm, just you're spouting off into a microphone on nerdy stuff, and I sometimes question myself now because I'm on the same thing that is currently having an issue with hot tub streamers trying to not get in trouble because they want to be in bikinis, but they can't just do that unless they're in a swimming pool or a hot tub setting. So their entire stream is done from a hot tub to get around it, which, by the way, is a brilliant move. But also Twitch is really stupid for not realizing that was going to be a loophole and then not doing anything about it. And then finally getting around to it, but not really selling people why they're getting around to it. Just be consistent. It's these major platforms, YouTube, Twitch, stuff like that, breaking their own rules or trying to rearrange them constantly. Dude, just make it a free speech platform. Quit trying to. Yes, okay. There's certain things you should, pedophiles and stuff like that, but in certain adult content, there's other places for things like that, but trying to constantly go after people's speech, or as they call them, the titty streamers and things like that. If the girl wants to do that, I don't care. Why, it's the same. I have the same attitude with that as I do with LGBT. Do what makes you happy. If that gets you followers and people are that desperate to actually follow someone for that, you know what? Who cares? Good for you for finding a niche audience and finding a way not to have to go into an office every friggin' day and slowly have your soul sucked out by some corporation that doesn't care about you. Or Taco Bell, which I hear gives you a 15% discount. I mean, if you're going to have a job, you may as well get be as big as a house by the time you get out of there. But anyway, I got off track. So anyway, aliens probably just think we're too stupid to talk to. They won't even, honestly, if they're advanced enough to actually travel between space and at light speeds or greater than light speeds, if they've actually figured that stuff out, they're going to probably look at us the way the Klingons looked at humans in Star Trek and be like, I mean, they warp speed at like 0.1 warp in their own solar system. It was fast enough to get them to within their own system, but not out of it. Well, shit, according to our stuff, I guess we have to talk to them. Oh, guys. All right, who's drawing straws? What is this? Humans? Okay. And they're on Iarta. Okay, so we're going to have to talk to the humans on Iarta. Great. All right. Steve, yeah, you got the start straw. Go out there, do the whole land on, the land on some rural farmer's plot and come down the ramp. The rest of them will follow within minutes, and we'll just sort it out after that. Just try not to they have nukes. You try not to let them drop one of those. They probably will. They got the IQ of what do they call it? A rutabaga. Yeah, that's about as smart as these guys are. So let's just get this over with, and we'll process them back on the core systems. Anyway, that's my impression of aliens. They're very over us, by the way. And the last bit, too, is that aliens are more likely to be synthetic than biological. Looking at you, Geth. Although in this, for some reason, they show a picture of Tally, the Quarian, which is weird because she's not synthetic. They should have showed Legion, which is a Geth. But oddly enough, for all of his criticism, overall, he says the sci-fi aspects of the aliens in Mass Effect are actually pretty good. It says here, I'll read one last quote from Einstein says that you can't go the speed of light or faster. And as far as we know, Einstein seems to be right about that. There's all sorts of caveats, obviously. But that means if aliens are 100 light years away and you send them an abusive statement, it takes 100 years just to get it there. If the response is, brace yourself, we're sending our interstellar battleships to wipe you all out, all of that takes so much time that we'll have a whole thing becomes mute. There's this tyranny of distance that exists so that you can't do anything quickly, and maybe that saves us. And maybe that's what saves everything in the galaxy. We really can't mess with one another because we're too spread out. Yeah, I have a feeling that there's ways around stuff like that. That's just my belief, that there's science and stuff like that we've not even begun to scratch, and holy crap, I've still got a lot to get to. Anyway, moving on from there. I'll do this one real quick. Outriders apparently hits 3.5 million players in the first month and is now Square Enix's next major franchise. With the average playtime of 30 hours, the company plans to expand the franchise in the future. Now, this is good. Outriders is a good game. However, it has been plagued with difficulties. I mean, just when you can play the game, it's really a lot of fun. The problem is playing the game. There was I took a drink and almost choked on. Remember, this is why aliens won't talk to us. Sometimes our water tries to go down our air chute. And now my nose is running. That's fantastic. But anyway, there was like a week where I couldn't log into that game. I had to actually, and then once they fixed the problem with it, it was just a constant disconnect error. I couldn't just close the game down and bring it back up. It still kept giving me an error. I had to entirely shut off and restart my Xbox Series X because I managed to get one. I don't know if I mentioned that, but it's awesome. And that was bad. It really sucked. I don't know. They just keep screwing everything up with that game. And now they're like, it's our next major franchise. And that's good. I just hope they learn from this because it has just been such a pain in the ass to try to play. And it's really a shame because I really wanted to like it. I would probably have played through the entire thing by now, even before Mass Effect came out. And now that Mass Effect is out and I've got that going, plus Final Fantasy XIV, and Sib and I are almost through Resident Evil The Village, which I forgot to mention earlier. We're around Heisenberg's area. And what was the other one? Oh, and we're trying again for the, I think, third time now to try to finish Gears of War 5 is the most recent one. But we're doing that on the Series X because, I don't know, there's just something fun about sitting on the couch instead of, before we were both on our own computers and just getting stuff to connect was such a pain in the butt. But no, I'm glad it's working out for them, but I really hope they pull their head out of their ass. You know, kind of like Respawn needs to with Titanfall and Titanfall 2. So there's a guy I watch called Upper Echelon Gaming, I don't remember, Gamer or Gaming, on YouTube. He's looks very deep into a lot of things, and he brought up actually a week ago that apparently Titanfall 1, which is online only, it's only a multiplayer game for those of you that don't remember, is completely unplayable on PC. You cannot play the game, period. You can on the consoles because it's its own ecosystem, but apparently even that recently has been having issues because there's a hacker out there. Perhaps he's got a couple others, but they know at least it's one hacker that constantly does. He is somehow exploited something in the code and fills the lobbies with bots so that while you're trying to connect to the game, even if you manage to connect to a game lobby, the bots then all time out and you can't do it. And apparently, at least as I'm understanding this, because I looked it up, I heard it from him. I looked up a couple other articles. This one here is from Game Rant because recently it started happening to Titanfall 2. But Titanfall is completely unplayable, which is even more disgusting because Steam and others on PC are like putting Titanfall on sale. So Respawn is selling the Titanfall knowing that nobody can play it on PC. They can't get to it. I think I have the game on PC. I actually need to. I've been bumping up against my bandwidth limit, so I don't want to just download something willy-nilly only for it to be nothing and not be able to do anything with it. But yeah, apparently it's now happening to Titanfall 2. There was and Apex Legends they've been experiencing the DDoS, direct denial of service attacks, which anybody that plays online games, especially MMOs, you are vastly familiar with because assholes constantly do that just to destroy the games. With Titanfall, it's actually a little different because there's some sort of loophole, as I understand this, in the coding that makes it actually even worse. And beyond that, Respawn seems to want to do almost absolutely nothing about it. At the time of this thing here, which is now 3 days ago, the servers were entirely down for Titanfall. But it made no difference because before, even when they were up, nobody could play them. The Xbox One servers were running, which is good. But now they're reportedly going after Titanfall 2, and so far unsuccessfully. But it's technically unsuccessfully. But they're aware of they keep putting out these things. They're aware of it. But apparently, this seems like a greater issue. Somebody clearly has a beef, and according to this upper echelon gamer guy, he actually was given a packet. He was not able to do it because he doesn't give out that information like that without being able to fully prove if that guy is in fact the hacker. But the theory is that the guy doing all this knows somebody or had worked with Respawn at one point and knows how to do what he's doing. It's not a script kiddie. It's not some teenage punk or something like that. Apparently, it's very well done, well thought out, and well executed. It's somebody that really it's an actual hacker kind of a guy. It's not just someone that like, I downloaded a hacking program. Look, I know what your ISP is. I'm a hacker. I'm in. Yeah, that's what they say when they hack things. Anyway, so it's really a shame too, because Titanfall, both of the games, for one, just butt stupid of EA when they released Titanfall 2, because that was the single player, especially on that, was a gem, and the multiplayer is fantastic. I really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, those dumbasses also released that I think a week after Call of Duty, or before, I can't remember. I think it was after, and then a week before, like, Assassin's Creed. I mean, it was squished in between two massive franchises during the holiday season, and so it did not do well. And it's a shame, because Respawn is a fantastic company, and they deserved better than that. I mean, look what they did with Jedi Fallen Order. That was a great game. And it's Souls light, but I hate those games. I don't enjoy them, but I love that one, not just because of my love of Star Wars, which is part of it, but it was a good game. So it's just a shame to have that, and then Respawn doesn't seem to be able, either they're unwilling or they are unable to do anything about it, and I'm honestly not sure which one that is. So, all right, well, that's kind of it for the news. I'll go over the three things a little bit more in depth: Invincible, Army of the Dead, and Love, Death, and Robots Season 2. But I probably will touch on spoilers. So if you don't want spoilers, good for you. Go watch them, come back, and then you can listen if you actually remember. Which, if you're like me, you won't. Don't worry about it. I won't hold it against you. I'll just weep silently in the shower, thinking of how little you like me, because that means everything to me. What strangers on the internet think. That's all I can think about. So anyway, by the time the sounder ends, if you're still here and you don't want to be spoiled and you get spoiled, that's on you, not on me.
This is Crash While Loading's half-ass reviews. Maybe we finished it. Maybe we didn't. But either way, here's what we thought of it.
All right, so getting into it. Invincible was fantastic. I cannot give this praise enough. It had Steven Yeun, who you know is, oh shit, I just forgot his name, from The Walking Dead. What was his damn name? Glenn. I don't know why. Oh, Glenn Rhee. I always want to call him Glenn Lee. But yeah, Glenn from The Walking Dead actually voices the teenage kid. Oops, I clicked off the thing. And he does a great job. Then you have J.K. Simmons is Omni-Man, and who's the Superman. He's his dad. And he's the Kryptonian. Their whole species is just incredibly strong. Superman level, like Invincible. And, he's supposed to be on Earth. They're a benevolent species that goes out and helps other species lift them up. And he falls for an Earth woman who is Mark Grayson, Invincible's mom. And they have a kid. He learns, Omni-Man learns a bit about, humanity and becomes the superhero and all that stuff. And then at 17 years old, he finally gets his powers. The kid does. And, it's your typical coming of age story at this point, the very first episode. He doesn't have his powers. He's bummed about it. He gets it. He starts to train, and then you get to the end of the episode. And the superhero team at the end, it's got a speedster, it's got a Wonder Woman type, it's got a Batman type, it's got Aquaman, although he looks like he's a fish king. There's an Immortal who is he's Superman light. And so Omni-Man goes there and brutally murders every single one of them. They beat the shit out of Omni-Man, but it is violent and gory. Like, he squeezes the speedster's heads between his arms and hands. And the whole time, the speedster guy is, punching Omni-Man in the chest, and it's doing damage, but after a point, his hands break, and they're flopping against the guy's chest, and it is brutal. And then he squishes his head, and his eye pops out, and claps his hands together through the guy's internal brain meats. And he twists the Wonder Woman girl's head, practically off her body, just spins her head all the way around like a fucking top. And everything up before that was just, it's just like the Batman animated series kind of anime. It's American animation style. It's a coming of age story, and then just goes super brutal and sets the tone for the rest of the series after that. But it was such a fun ride, and it goes on. They do a lot of there's an invading alien force as he's trying. The world's now trying to come to terms with the fact that their top superhero team is gone. They don't realize it was Omni-Man because they beat him up so bad. The government agency that's there and helps with the superheroes that was running the superhero team nurses him back to health and all that, but all the while trying to figure out who did it and why it happened the way it does and who was strong enough to take them all out. And there's a whole lot of mystery, and they do the alien invading army trope, kind of like Marvel did, over and over and over in the next episode as the kid's learning his powers and learning his way. But as it progresses, it gets so dark, and if you've got a lot of nice comedic moments at the same time, but it really does take into when Omni-Man finally admits why he did what he did, why he killed that team. It's because his race of superhero people, they're not benevolent Superman types like Kryptonians. They're an empire, and they've basically gone the Saiyan route where they send their own kind. Is that the show with that think meme? I don't know what that one is, Ericus. It might be if it's animated and it's very brightly colored. Could be. If the superhero has a mustache, like a porn star mustache, that's Omni-Man. Who of course is, I don't think I said it was who's his J.K. Simmons, which him from Bring Me Pictures of Spider-Man. He plays J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man movies, and he's I love that guy. He's a fantastic actor. But he's Omni-Man, Nolan Grayson. But so yeah, it turns out they're really more of a Saiyan thing. They send one of their people, their most loyal. Did you put it up? Let's see. Yes. That's actually that one right there. Think. Yes, Ericus, that actually is Invincible. That's from Invincible. Actually, that's the last episode from Invincible. When he's trying to convince his son that the Empire is not that bad, and these people are ants and stuff like that. And this is after he held his kid by the face in front of an oncoming subway car. And this car, he's standing on the tracks. He's holding his son. And this car hits his son, and it just starts to split around them. And all the people on the train splatter against the front of his kid, and just explode and just blow up everywhere as they're just ground into dust against him because he's largely invulnerable. He's not entirely impervious, but he's compared to squishy human beings, they just splatter against him, and it gets so brutal and dark, but it is really, really well done. If you haven't seen it by now, and you have Amazon Prime, man, you are really missing out. Go watch it, although I just spoiled quite a bit, but that's your fault. I told you to go away. So yeah, highly, 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 highly recommend that one. Army of the Dead, as I said, if you don't like zombie stuff, you can skip it. I mean, it's Army of the Dead. The thing that I found funny, it's basically just, some military zombie gets out. He's just like a super soldier zombie, as happens with all things, Roadhead is what ends up being the downfall of Las Vegas. I mean, if it's happened once, it's happened 1,000 times. And that lets the zombie out. Then he infects others, and then before you know it, all of Las Vegas has fallen. And so they put a wall around Vegas to keep the zombie horde at bay, made of shipping containers and things like that. And then Scorpion comes in, and the guy that played Scorpion, but I don't know the actor's name. So Scorpion comes in, and he wants to pay the Dave Bautista team that was helping people get out of Vegas as the wall was going up to go back in and go after millions and millions of dollars inside one of the casinos, because insurance has already paid the casinos back. That money is just waiting there. They've got a couple days until the president drops a tactical nuke. Ironically, it's supposed to be on the 4th of July because it'd be really cool. Obviously, it's a commentary on the president at the time, which would be Trump. But I'm going to be honest with you. Dropping a tactical nuke on zombie-infested Las Vegas during the 4th of July actually did sound like a really cool idea. I'm just going to put that out there. Is it tacky? Yes. Is it disrespectful to all the lives that were lost in Vegas to the zombie horde? Yes. Would it be really cool to see? Yeah, kind of. Yeah. So anyway, it was a fun movie. It does the thing with intelligent zombies. Like, they're not all shamblers, as they call them. Some of them actually are smart. They actually sacrifice a guy in order to be in the zombie territory, at least the smart zombie territory. The shamblers are still a point of contention. But like all things, the greed gets the best of people, and there's betrayals, and the guy that was sent in there with Scorpion's bodyguard guy is a real dick about it, and, of course, ends up fucking things over. One of the delightful people is actually, I forget her name in Star Trek Discovery, but it's the mechanic chick with the short hair who's really dry sense of humor. She's the pilot in this, and I think they did a good job, because while watching the movie, I had no idea that everything that she was inserted to in the movie was actually done after the fact, because they recast her to be in this part of that pilot. Apparently there was another guy that was in that role who had sexual allegations and stuff charged against him, which, as I've gone over before, allegations alone I don't think are enough to get people to lose their job, and it cost them millions to recast this. But a part where they also found child porn in his possession, that changes my thing from, you have to hear everybody out to fuck the guy. If they legitimately confirmed he had child porn, and then he came out on Twitter and was like, I have a problem. Yeah, you have a problem. You're attracted to small, innocent children, and you're a piece of shit. So I understand why they were like, let's spend a few million and get that guy out of our scenes. But they integrated her in really well. Some people I see, they're like, I could totally tell. I mean, this isn't Superman's mustache. This was done a lot better as far as I'm concerned. I'm usually really good at seeing that kind of stuff. Like we were talking earlier with Ericus, with CGIing Drax in the future. I can, it's stuff like that. I can really tell. Like, for example, in this, there was a CGI zombie tiger, and it looked like a CGI zombie tiger. It was one of Siegfried and Roy's, supposedly, even though I don't think they actually do that because one of them almost had their head bitten off by the tiger. But it looked CGI. It looked cool. Don't get me wrong. It was a badass looking, zombie tiger, but you could tell. The lighting and things like that, it was definitely not as good as it could have been, perhaps. I don't know if everyone sees stuff like that, but I've watched enough movies and stuff that I notice these things. I also am very fascinated by digital effects and things like that, so I read up on them, so I know a lot of the story. One of the things that I found absolutely hysterical was Zack Snyder, who is the director of this movie. You know him from the Zack Snyder cut of the Injustice League and a whole bunch of other stuff that he does. But he came out and was like, yes, it was a social commentary on the border wall between the America and Mexico. And it was just had this, migrant camps, and I just felt the need to put that out there and make that commentary within my movie. The article also later on went that it was already a plot point, by the way, and I think that he was just blowing smoke up his own ass because he was trying to sound smart for his other Hollywood elitist friends. Also, by the way, if I was a Mexican immigrant or even an illegal one, I would probably take issue with the fact that in this imaginary social commentary of border walls, the Mexicans at the southern border are the brain-eating, people-killing zombies? Which is why I say I think this was an after-the-fact commentary that he just wanted to make and sound pompous. Because when you really think it through, that the zombies trapped within there would be the country of Mexico, and they're trying to get out into the rest of America. Not the nicest comparison, I would think. I don't know if, hey, you're a brainless, mind-eating zombie, Jose. Yeah, see, it doesn't really work. Also, I don't really, I'm all for legal immigration. I think for our country, at least in America, we should have walls, but we should also have a giant door that makes it shouldn't take years and years and years and tens of thousands of dollars in waiting and just the bullshit people have to go through to become a citizen of this country. It needs to be streamlined. It needs to be better. There's a lot of things that need to be better, but that's my personal take. Going in reverse, a lot of countries have borders. It's just the way things are. That's why they're called countries. If they didn't, maybe when the aliens come and visit us, we'll no longer be a borderless society because they'll make sure we don't kill each other constantly. But we would need that oversight. So the fact that he made that commentary, it made me chuckle. It doesn't make my enjoyment of the movie any less. It just made me realize he's dumb at times. They all say these things. People do stuff like that after the fact. But yeah, comparing Mexicans coming up to the border to brain-eating zombies trying to just, mindlessly kill everything around them, probably not the best commentary, Snyder. And I assume most people probably won't look any deeper into it than that, but I did because I thought it was funny and it was kind of a dumb thing. So moving on to the 8 episodes of Love, Death, and Robots. Some of these were hit and miss. I loved them. The first one, automated customer service. A woman's home cleaning unit turns lethal. Their little vacuum cleaner starts trying to kill her. It's a robot. Although the animation in this one is good, the figures of it, their heads are massive and disproportionate to their bodies. They almost look like some of the Titans from Attack on Titan. They're so freakishly creepy looking, but it was really good. It was a very funny one. The next one was she's also got an adorable little fluffy dog that is very vicious. The next one was Ice, which was more of a 2D animation thing, and it was two brothers that one was genetically modded and the locals, and it was okay. That was one of the weaker ones for me. It was kind of pretty. The animation style was really smooth and it looked neat. It was very stylized. Think like Batman Beyond, but even more exaggerated in a lot of the proportions and stuff of the people. Then there was probably, I think, both my favorite and also the one I hated the most. But it's called Pop Squad. And it's like a future. This cop is charged with fighting the scourge of overpopulation and is haunted by the human toll on his work. So basically, we've come across in the future. We've got something that extends our lives forever. We're basically immortal, short of from disease and aging. And thus, because when he ever dies, we're not supposed to have kids, but there are people that still they go off the juice and they are hiding in the old dilapidated parts of the world where, I guess because the human population shrank down due to that, they have kids because kids are a joy, and that's a great way to see the world through their eyes, as I'm learning with my grandson, which is why this one hit home, because like the first scene, they find two kids and they're adorable the way they're animated. And this one looks amazing. The animation it's not photorealistic, but it's damn near it, because it's not exactly meant to be. And he pops the kids, like Pop Squad. He shoots them. His job is to kill children when they find them to prevent overpopulation. And it starts to really weigh on him. And man, that one was tough. It ended on it could have been it'd be a universe and movie series I would love to see more of, but man, is it dark. And it is probably one of my all-time favorites. Then there was Snow in the Desert. It's about a guy who apparently is immortal, and bounty hunters are after him, and because they're trying to figure out how to do that. That one is the one where he's an albino, and for some reason on him, he had that uncanny valley thing where he didn't quite look real. You could tell he was CGI, but the woman in it, there are a lot of shots of her that if I didn't already know I was watching a fully CGI animated show, I would have thought it was a real life still. Like, she looks amazing. It's just, and some of the other characters too, like the aliens, they're aliens. So, but there's another dude that comes in later who doesn't have the albino thing, and I think it's got to be the albino thing that for some reason that makes him look uncanny valley. But that guy and two of the other people, there's certain shots with them where it looks 100% like it was just, maybe the CGI is just the background, like all of Star Wars, the recent Star Wars movies or episode 1, 2, or 3. It looks that good, and it was very interesting. Tall Grass was one. It was pretty good. It was a little weird. Guy gets off a train, and there's a prairie. There's tall grass, and there's these weird creatures out there. But it was neat. One of the styles of animation that I do not like, I hated it in the first season of Dragon Prince, is where they skip animation. Frames per second. Typically you have to have 24 frames per second in animation to fully fool the human eye, which is, unless it's used stylistically like they did in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. If you don't know, everything else in that movie runs at the 24 plus frames a second, so it runs smooth. Spider-Man, all that. But for Miles Morales in that, he runs, I think it was at 18, because at least at the beginning, because he's new, he doesn't know what he's doing, so he's a little janky, and it's a small visualization that makes him look out of sync with everything else and gives him a little bit more otherness, to coin a phrase that is used a lot, but I'm using it in a better way this time. It makes him look outside of everyone else's ability. And as he gets good and becomes, the Spider-Man that he does become, it ups the frames per second ups, and it smooths him out. Like when he jumps off that building towards the end of the movie when they go and fight everything. That's when he really comes into his own. It's a small detail, and it worked in that, but in certain things, it's just... it's really jarring. Like the actual look of the people was good, but I just hate the skipped frames thing. And then there was All Through the House, which is a Christmas Eve one. Holy shit. It's like Guillermo del Toro meets Santa Claus. The Santa Claus that comes out of this, the kids are all excited. They sneak downstairs to see Santa. This long, dripping tongue sucks the milk out of there, and Santa comes in, and he looks like something out of fucking Rick and Morty, only realistic and grotesque, or Pan's Labyrinth. He's got this like alien maw kind of a thing, and he's got hands on the side of his face. He's got no eyes, and the kids are terrified of him, and he like pets them, and he's like, he knows their name. And he's like, Jen, good, and then he barfs up her package. And then he touches her brother, and he's like, Will, good, and barfs up his package. And then he pats him on the head, stay good, and disappears up the chimney. And the kid opens it up, and it's a train set. And he's like, it's exactly what I wanted. And then they're just sitting in the bed horrified at what they just saw. And the girl's like, what would have happened if we were bad? And it's, I think it's one of my new favorite Christmas stories, I'm going to be honest with you. And then there's Life Hutch, which is another Robots Gone Bad. This was another really photorealistic one. So photorealistic, the guy looks exactly like Michael B. Jordan and sounds exactly like Michael B. Jordan and is, in fact, Michael B. Jordan in space. Michael B. Jordan in space. It was good. I mean, it's man versus a malfunctioning maintenance robot. It's got some really horrifying body mutilation stuff in it. It makes you really feel it. But it was good. I thought it was kind of one of the weaker ones, especially after they already had with, automated customer service. The great thing about automated customer service is the whole time her robot's trying to kill her is she's on the phone with the company. You know, if your robot's trying to kill you, please press 3 now. And that one was hysterical. So then going into a very serious, more photorealistic version of it, it didn't work as well for me. And then the last one was The Drowned Giant, which probably I have a feeling might be a lot of people's favorite. A colossal body, a giant, washes up on shores dead. Why? Nobody ever says. Apparently it's based off of, let's see here if I can find it. It's actually, that one's only got a 7 on here. Plots are, yeah, I don't know what it's based. I read earlier what it was. It's based off of something, which it's the one. It actually has narration over the entire thing as the guy goes and sees what's happening, and it goes on about as the thing starts to get the giant starts to be just not like dissected, like people start taking parts of him, and he's huge, like you can crawl into the palm of his hand. He's massive. He's probably 100 meters, probably a football field in length, 100 meters tall, give or take. But it was really good. I really enjoyed that one. The animation was top notch. Some of that, this one, funny enough, the people didn't look real, but some of the like cars and whatnot actually looked photorealistic, which was really strange. But all in all, it was really fun. Sib and I kind of burned through that yesterday and today because there's 8 episodes, and I think the longest one is 18 minutes, and that's counting like the credits at the end and whatever all that is. So they're typically 10 to 18 minutes long, so we burned through it pretty quick, but it was well worth it. Fantastic as always. If you've not ever watched the first one, that one has a few more misses, but it's also 18 episodes, and some of it is just absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I think that's that. Yeah, that's all I got. That's it. What are you still doing here? But no, just kidding. So yeah, that'll do it. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Remember, if you are listening on a podcast or you got a computer with iTunes, go to iTunes, look me up, on Crashed While Loading and give us a review. I probably should check that and see if there are any. So far, I think there is one from my great aunt Macy, and she's like, I don't know why you're telling me to do this thing. 1 star. So there's that. But yeah, go over to iTunes. It actually helps get the podcast out there, which, I mean, numbers are slowly coming up. It's not all about that, but it is nice to be actually get out there a little bit. So give that a shot. And remember, twitch.tv/crashwhilelitting if you want to listen to it live, as you are doing now. And I should probably do that thing right there, like a professional would. So, yeah, that's that. Hope everyone had a good time. I am Ashen Phoenix. I appreciate you listening, and I shall see you next week. Thanks, Ericus. It was a good show. Made only better by our neighbors to the north. Looking at you, Canada. Wink and nod. Music, as always, is provided by Husky by the Geek. Visit him at youtube.com/HuskyByTheGeek to hear all his latest in video game rock covers and original music.
Back off, man. I'm a scientist.